Welcome to 805 Sports Talk. We have one team standing in the CIF Southern Section playoffs in our coverage area, and that is the Cabrillo girls basketball team. The Conks will play Saturday in Ontario against Warren in the Division III AA championship game. They are the lone team standing, as our teams in our area went 1-5 in semifinal games. So we'll start with Cabrillo. Kenny, they had a good week, dominating San Clemente on the road and then playing another road game against Sunny Hills. You were on hand for that one. Kind of a routine win, 49-39. They had to work for it. What did you take away from that victory for the Conks?
Well, it wasn't exactly a routine win. The score was a little misleading. They were ahead 42-37, and then they scored with 37.2 seconds left. And I guess the Sunny Hills coach was furious. He thought the shot clock had gone off before Cabrillo scored. I guess he went onto the court. At that point, he got a technical foul. Morgan McIntyre, with the foot stomping and the yelling, rained down on her, made 2 technical foul shots, and Cabrillo got the ball out of bounds. So that pretty much killed any slight hope that Sunny Hills had. But I thought it was a very good win for them. I thought Sunny Hills played them very smart. Sunny Hills is not the most talented offensive team, but they stayed in the zone pretty much the whole way. Had Cabrillo stuck in a half-court offense most of the time, and I know with Aaron Jenkins, I haven't seen that much of Cabrillo this year, but I know with Aaron Jenkins, they do like to run some when they can, but they were pretty much relegated to Aaron trying to get the hole somehow, or them trying to feed the ball into her through traffic. And she managed to slip open in the second half for a few key baskets, or them hitting some outside shots. And they were able to hit a few timely ones. Alyssa Stewart scored 11 points. And I think another Cabrillo player was also double figures besides Aaron. So Aaron did get some help, and that was important. I thought that was a very good win for them. As far as their chances Saturday, I think they do have a decent chance. I would like their chances a lot better if Brittany McCune, frankly, would be able to play. Brittany gave them a big post presence in more ways than one, both offensively and defensively. But I do think they have a shot. It might be a low-scoring game. Downey apparently has a good defense, but doesn't score all that much.
All right, Lorenzo. Earlier or last week we talked about Cabrillo not being able to get past that quarterfinal round. Right. Now they're in the championship game. How do you think they've been able to do that, and what do you think kind of separates this year's team from previous years?
You know what? Role players, as Kenny mentioned, have really stepped up. I mean, he mentioned Alyssa Stewart. She's been lights out as a three-point shooter. Amani Childress has also given them a spark off the bench. And then you got the younger Jenkins and the younger McCune also providing some pulse for that Cabrillo offense. And, I have a new nickname for Cabrillo, the Orange County Killers, because they beat San Clemente pretty handily. Then they go to the Sunny Hills and Fullerton, win that game. So, I feel like Orange County teams might cringe at the thought of Cabrillo at this point.
Yeah, we were kind of nervous in that San Clemente game. Long road trip, kind of having that quarterfinal jinx. And they just dominated that game from the tip-off. A little closer in the semifinals on Saturday, but here they are in the championship game. What kind of chances do you give them, taking on Warren in that championship game?
From what Kenny said, I guess Warren's not much of an offensive team. That really plays in Cabrillo's favor because Cabrillo is not only very defensive oriented, but they know how to adjust. And I think we give a lot of credit to the players. I know coaches, they don't really like to have the credit. They want players to get the shine. Well, I feel like we need to acknowledge McCune and his staff. They know how to make adjustments, and then the players themselves also can pinpoint some defensive schemes that are that they can try to counter. So this is a very, very high IQ basketball team. So I really like their chances going in that arena.
All right, Elliot, what do you want to say about the job Jared McCune has done over there?
Well, think about the injuries they've overcome. They're star. They've got another player out, and yet they're in the championship game. Can you imagine how good they would be if Brittany McCune was on the floor? Yeah. They'd be unstoppable. And yet, this is a team, even lacking a couple of key players, that was given a number 2 seed, and they're showing that they really belong where they're at. Going, the 1 and 2 seeds are the ones you figure should be playing for the championship. they're going to be playing for it. So I think they're doing a great job. I think they have a chance to bring home their first CIF Southern Section title. Everybody around here is going to be rooting for them. We saw the other teams go down, but they're still alive and kicking. And it's next man up, and in this case, next woman up, and the next women up have done the job. So, we go over we're coming to that time again, voting for the all area teams, the coach of the year, the players of the year, and Jared McCune has done a remarkable job getting those girls up, especially when he's lost Brittany.
I'm going to add one other thing that might be a good omen on Cabrillo's end. In my second year of covering Emmanuel girls basketball, they win a CIF title, then they go on to the state. Cabrillo, this is my second year of covering Cabrillo, so.
Are you trying to take some credit for that?
I'm trying not to, but I'm just pointing it out. So.
And although we root for great games, you're a conch. You graduated from that high school, so that wouldn't hurt either to see your alma mater win.
Well,
it's been a good year for his alma mater, Santa Maria High School, so maybe yours will join the bandwagon.
Well, right now just girls basketball, but hey, credit to McCune and what he's done, especially considering the fact he lost his key post player, and this is really the best coaching job. I know I haven't been here very long at this many times, but I could tell this is his best coaching job he's had.
It is for him, yeah.
I would say one matchup problem where looks like they're going to have, where they might really miss Brittany. A lot of Warren's offense seems to go through a 6-foot senior young woman. I believe her name is pronounced Kiani Berry. She averages 13.6 points a game and 12 rebounds a game. So if Brittany was there, it would probably be Brittany against her in the post. Aaron is probably going to have to compensate inside defensively.
Morgan McIntyre as well. She's been an outstanding post presence on the defensive end.
Yeah, and when you go against a girl like that, some players can get into foul trouble. So I think we'll see how the referees call that one, and so many factors can impact the game when you're in the championship. So it's going to be a tough matchup, but it was cool that before the season, previewing it, you talked about McCune wanting to make the state playoffs, and here they are. We kept kind of wondering if they would get there with the injuries and some of the struggles they had, losing Brittany McCune and Kiki Dial, but here they are, guaranteed a state playoff bid and in a championship game, one win away from getting the school's first CIF Southern Section championship in girls basketball. So quite a job from them, but they're not quite done yet. Another program that had a great season but just came up a bit short is Righetti. While Cabrillo was winning Saturday, Righetti had a pretty disappointing home performance against Downey, falling 58-43, 20-point lead pretty much throughout that game. Pretty good home environment for Righetti, but Downey just handled it, with ease, took everything Righetti threw at them and just pretty much routined them. 20 points, used a lot of their quickness, pressing, trapping all over the court. Righetti really didn't have an answer for that Downey defense, and the Warriors fall in the semifinals for the third year in a row. Had a good conversation with Desiree Hitch after that loss. She didn't shy away from having some frustration on not being able to get past that semifinal round. They're the number 2 seed this year, won 26 straight games, something like that. Their season is bookended by losses. Started the year with a loss to Cabrillo, and the year with a loss to Downey in the semifinals. So the Warriors come up short. They're going to be in the central section next year, so it's a little bit of a transition. They're losing Zane Sheckard, losing Kendall Bagby, losing Ashley Reynoso, but they do have some young pieces in there. Kenny, you followed them closely throughout the season. How do you think Righetti feels about the way their season ended, falling at home in the semifinals?
Now, did you say they're in the state tournament? Did they make
That's what Desiree said after the loss. She sounded pretty confident. I'm going to agree go with her. Mm-hmm. She was confident they're in. So I'm guessing they're in the state playoff according to Desiree Hitch, but they are out of the Southern Section playoffs.
I would not say that the loss makes the whole season disappointing. I think it definitely, though, takes some luster off of it. Look, to be honest, 2 years ago they were just overmatched against an excellent team in Antelope Valley. Last year, they were without their best player, Danita Astorga. Maybe if they have her, they win. I don't know. I wasn't covering that game. But this year, I mean, they were seeded, no excuses, they were seeded number 2. They were playing at home. We all thought they deserved the number 2 seed. At home, you should not go 14 for 39. Even a high school team should not go 14 for 39 from the foul line at home. I realize they're not the greatest shooting foul team, but they were much better than 14 for 39 percentage-wise all year. Yeah, I mean, you have to find a way to deliver. I mean, 39 free throws, that's a big opportunity.
Yeah. You lose by 15 points, you miss 25 free throws. You're not going to hit all of those 25 free throws, but, maybe a dozen of them get you back in the game. You make at least half of those.
27 for 39 and 28 for 39 or something, right?
Yeah, that was brutal. And watching that, you can kind of feel it happening at the line. Just no rhythm. The players start thinking about it a little too much. It's just one of those things, just one of those nights. And I don't think that was the only thing that kind of impacted it. Downey was a really good team. And Desiree said that their defense quickness just knocked them out of their game, knocked them off focus in every aspect of their game. So she felt that just the quickness, the speed of Downey kind of just took them out of their free throw shooting rhythm as well. That's how impactful the speed and defense was of Downey in that game. That's what Desiree thought. Elliot, you traveled last week to see them in the quarterfinals. Win at Summit, kind of interesting. Downey sent someone to that game to get some film on that game because they were wanting to prepare for whoever they faced. They end up facing Righetti and handling them. You saw the quarterfinal win. Did you kind of expect them to show a little bit better in the semifinals after taking care of Summit in the quarterfinals?
I did. I didn't expect them to miss 25 free throws, and like you said, that maybe they wouldn't make all 25 of those, but they could have kept the game closer if they had. But in the Duarte game and the Summit game, they faced teams that were that had a big girl in the middle and some size, and they matched up a little bit better with them. And their defense could press and slow them down. And even that Summit game, it was really tense and close until the fourth quarter, and then they broke it open late with a huge 18-3 closing run. This time, and Desiree Hitch and I talked about it before the game, this was a small team. They started 4 girls that were 5'4", 3 of them 5'4", and 1 5'5". The concern was speed. And Desiree, being a speedy little point guard when she was in high school, she knows all about having these 3 guards on the floor at the time that can break the press, get you up to the court quick, drive for the layups, one-woman basketball if they need it. And I think that Righetti just couldn't keep up with that speed. If they can keep you to a half-court game, they can compete with anybody. But once you get past that, their press, their full-court press, then you could be in trouble, and they were. So I was surprised that they lost. I mean, they lost their opening game, as we said, to Cabrillo, and this game, and they didn't lose anything in between. They were undefeated on the season after that. And that was the game that Brittany McCune went down in, wasn't it? Oh, no, that was, yeah, it was.
That was December. That was right before the Thomas Fire.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it was around the Thomas Fire. Yeah.
So, but they lost that opening game, and then you thought they'd come in at home with a lot of confidence, but they just outran them. So I was surprised to see it happen, but after talking to Desiree and Zane Sheckard and Mercedes Arredondo before the game, I thought they might be a little bit concerned with the speed that they were going to be facing, and it's sure, they got them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Righetti can regroup and advance in the state playoffs. They won a state playoff game last year. Maybe they can do that again. Maybe it was just kind of one of those anomalies where they were off their game in the semifinals, and maybe they'll play better in the state playoffs. Who knows?
We saw in 2011, St. Joseph girls team had won back-to-back CIF Southern Section titles and then lost in a championship of the Southern Section to a Sarah High School team that outquicked them. And they came back and actually they avenged that loss by beating Sarah in the Southern Section finals of the state tournament and went on to win a state championship. So they can regroup. It can be done. They got to just shake it off and say, all right, we've got to start another winning streak. It doesn't have to be 26 games this time. So I have confidence that they'll get their act back together, and we'll all be rooting for them. I know that.
So Righetti's confident they are in the state playoffs. Santa Maria boys basketball team was left out of the state playoffs after falling in the semifinals last Friday night. Kenny, you traveled over to Puente for that game. I'm sure our viewers have heard about it. How would you kind of sum up what happened to the Saints Friday night?
They just couldn't close. Frankly, I thought they had it when they were up 6 with, I think it was 2:54 left in regulation. But it always irritates me a bit when I see on sports talk shows after one team makes a impressive comeback, did such and such team win it, or such and such a team lose it. I've always thought it's almost always a combination of both, and this is what I think happened this time. Santa Maria had chances to close it out, but I had them 10 for 28 for the game at the free throw line. It was the loudest gym, literally, I've ever been in, and I've been covering sports for 20-something years. But you have to find a way to deliver. You can't go. They were probably fortunate to be still in the game, 10 for 28 at the foul line. But they only went 3 for 6 at the foul line, their last 6 free throws of regulation. And of course, if they hit just one of those, 4 of 6 is not a great percentage. If they hit that, they win. They could not keep Puente out of the lane at the most crucial times. A Puente boy scored a layup with 2 seconds left in regulation to force it to overtime. And then a Puente guy, it was a putback right at the basket, but in that situation, yes, he was open, but it's not that easy to do, but he put it in. Puente closed, Santa Maria didn't, and that's the bottom line.
So the Saints were left out of the state playoffs. Kenny, did you think they have a gripe to be, kind of upset that they were kind of snubbed a little bit with Calvary Baptist 5A team and St. Monica Academy, both 5A teams who combined to lose their semifinals by 75 points. Santa Maria loses in overtime in the highest Division 5 that the CIF Southern Section has. Do you think Santa Maria can feel a little, upset they're not in the state playoffs?
I do. If I was, I know I probably do have a local bias, but if I was an unbiased person, I would have picked them. The only thing I can figure is that the 2 teams that got in ahead of them had better overall records, and they were league champions. That's the only way I can figure. As you guys said, Santa Maria played in a higher division. Santa Maria lost by 2 in their semifinal. Both of the teams that got in ahead of them got blown out. I haven't seen either of the 2 teams, but based on what I've seen just of Santa Maria, I have a feeling Santa Maria would beat both of those teams fairly handily, perhaps by double digits if they went head-to-head.
It's such a slippery slope because you mentioned the league championships that these 2 teams that get in over Santa Maria has, but Santa Maria beat Foothill Tech, the same Foothill Tech team that's playing for a CIF title. They beat Garden Grove, a team that was on a 22-game winning streak. They also beat Lompoc, and we'll get to Lompoc a little bit later, but Lompoc made a deep run in its division, and they play in a higher division. So you're telling me Santa Maria doesn't look appealing to the state?
Yeah. My gut feeling is they just went by overall wins, period. And since those 2 had 21 overall wins, they got it.
I don't know, man.
But playoff performance, Santa Maria has it over them significantly.
Right.
I think they just decided they wanted to go with bigger schools from higher populated areas. I think they're looking at the gate, figuring they're going to sell more tickets.
they're small schools, but it is a highly
Santa Maria has a good population, so it's grown.
Yeah, but when you're already down in the Los Angeles area, it's easier to get people to travel. We have to travel here 200 miles or more. I know I went down to Summit, and that was 207 miles each way. And yet Righetti's parents travel to that game, but I think they might be looking at the gate and thinking closer schools will make a little more money. And last year the CIF Southern Section was proud that they made enough money on playoffs that they gave every member school back its dues, so that it was basically free to belong to the CIF. I wouldn't discount the fact that the gate is an
I
important
didn't think of that.
part
That
of
might
it.
be.
They're going to love traveling to the central section. No more LA traffic. I mean, just straight shot for the 41.
Yeah, and the bad thing about Santa Maria getting left out, it's people already think that private schools kind of have a bias, where they get a little preferential treatment here and there, and here you have two private schools that get chosen over Santa Maria, which has, I don't think you can really argue Santa Maria does have a better resume. They did go 20-8, but they play in a tougher league. With Cabrillo or two of those losses, they could have beat Cabrillo at home. They barely lost to Cabrillo by 10, I think, on the road. Played Lompoc 3 times, won one of those in triple overtime, and lost the other 2 in league games. So I think Santa Maria's resume was better. Maybe they just didn't want to pick a big public school with a high enrollment for a Division 5 playoff.
I have a
regional.
feeling they didn't look at all that.
I don't know, but just based on the resume on the basketball floor, it seemed like Santa Maria had a very good argument here to be in the state playoffs. We were all confident. I know Brian Wallace, the AD at Santa Maria, he was confident seeing Foothill Tech advance to the championship game in its division, and Santa Maria has a win over Foothill Tech. The resume was good, just for some reason, they're left out of the state playoffs. And if there were no at-large bids, I could see that argument. But you did pick 2 teams that had great seasons, but when you lose by 35 points, 40 points in the semifinal, it's kind of weird to say, here you go, congratulations, you're in the state playoffs. So Santa Maria loses by 2 points in overtime, and they're left out. So, sometimes that's just how it breaks, but, whatever. Moving on to Lompoc, Lorenzo, you mentioned it earlier. They made a semifinal run. I don't think any of us would have guessed that Lompoc and Santa Maria were going to be the last 2 boys basketball teams standing, but they were. They hosted Carnegie from Riverside on Friday. That seemed like a routine win for Carnegie, but just a great run from the Braves. What did you see in the semifinals and just that playoff run overall?
It's an impressive job that Paul Taronas did. I mean, it's one thing to bring in a whole new system compared to what Elliot Davis had, but getting the guys to finally get acclimated in that system. Now, one advantage Taronas had was that him being a football coach, the roster being half football players, there was already that sense of familiarity. But, I saw a lot of guys step up toward the end, like Benicio became a spark plug off the bench. Then Jordan Tyler became a force defensively. I mean, offensively, I felt there was still a little bit of lapses in consistency there, but when it mattered the most, especially against Aquinas, he was definitely sorely needed. And Andrew Villa, I mean, toward the end of the year, he made a case for all-area MVP with the way he was shooting the ball, the way he was attacking the basket as well. So I did talk to Don Cross after that Carnegie game. He seems to think that the Braves are in a very good position to still make it to state, and here's one of the reasons why. Lompoc beat 2 ranked teams in Division 4A in Aquinas and Desert Hot Springs. So that might be a good omen for their resume right there.
And an interesting point you brought up about Lompoc having a lot of football players on its basketball team. Santa Maria kind of has that same feel with Blake Truitt, John Ramos, so that's cool. I know a lot of coaches and administrators at the high school level love those multi-sport athletes, so you see Santa Maria and Lompoc making both deep runs during the football season and the basketball season using players from both sports.
I think in the case of both Lompoc and Santa Maria, it's great to see that these are 2 schools that you can really not say it's strictly a football school. I mean, I've seen schools where the emphasis is boys basketball or the emphasis is football. Well, I mean, I could tell at Lompoc and Santa Maria, it's both now, especially with the jobs that both Dave Yamati and Paul Taronas have done in their respective areas.
Yeah, I think Santa Maria has kind of improved in all sports across, at least on the boys' side. So definitely, they're kind of focusing on all sports, even track and field, and Lompoc definitely as well. They have a good, proud track and field tradition as well. So definitely not just a one-sport school at either of those places. That's all we got for this week. But be sure to follow all our coverage for Cabrillo on Saturday. We'll be previewing that in print, online, with video and everything. Kenny's going down there on Saturday to cover that championship game. We'll have updates on Facebook, Twitter, and in Sunday's Santa Maria Times and Lompoc Record. Thank you guys for tuning in to 805 Sports Talk.